Should be live. Verifying. Let's see if this is working. Yep, something's live. We are. We are live.
No.
Yes.
Can't be. I don't see it anywhere.
It just popped up.
Sure it did. Videos.
Hey. Hello. Hello,
Hi.
everyone. 3 people have said yay or hello so far.
Oh, nice.
It's Josh. It's Sebastian. It's PC Perspective 2020. A special live event at, 11:36 on the East Coast. So, burning the midnight oil almost.
Almost.
Yeah. I am not a YouTube engineer. I'm not even a halfway competent streamer. But I finally figured out what the problem was earlier. If you saw that train wreck, I apologize. It was a very long 2 minutes, Al, and I didn't mean to lie, but it finally came down to this. It came down to using an analog audio splitter and doing some return audio here. So until I actually learn what I'm doing, this is going to have to suffice. Josh?
Yes. This is fantastic. I just had kind of swapped around and took a look at a few things and got the correct address for all the people in PC per Public. Yeah. Sorry for the even more mess in my office. So apparently the wife, the room outside of this one, she's painting it, which is good because it's good that she stays busy and does things in the house. It's nice. She's had all summer off because she works in the school district. In fact, she's kind of had all since March off. Makes me mad. But anyway, everything that was kind of in there is now in here. So it's...
You mean like you've internalized it? In here?
See, I'm kind of dying on the inside.
Yeah. I didn't say that. But...
Yeah.
Okay. Hey,
Anyhow.
Paint fumes, Bruce. It's possible. I don't know. Oh, wait, here's the 2-shot again, or whatever this is called. So a lot has happened since the last time we podcasted, since the last time we talked to our adoring public. What were we going to talk about the last time? When we were coming up with our last
Good Lord,
podcast.
It's been 3 weeks since our last one.
Yeah.
And so we talked, I think, about our Intel earnings. We didn't get to AMD earnings. We didn't get to Intel's bombshell of there were, did their earnings talk about their 7-nanometer problems? I think they did.
Oh, Intel? Yeah. That's where most of the news stories came from. And then
after AMD announced, that's when they canned Murthy and had a reorganization. And we're all just rolling from there. And now Intel has suffered a 20 gigabyte plus leak of internal memos, specifications, all kinds of stuff. I don't think, RTLs or anything exciting like that, because those are massive in and of themselves.
Yeah, I don't think Nvidia's bought ARM yet. That's something that we were just waiting on.
Apparently, the SoftBank has approached others, trying to get more interest in figuring out, because I don't know if necessarily it's good for the industry to have them go to Nvidia, but if Nvidia is going to end up buying them, there's got to be some rules in play, contract wise, that they can't just cut everybody off from ARM designs. And plus, that would be kind of dumb on Nvidia's part to do anyway, because that's a lot of income from licensees that they could add to their bottom line. Think what ARM made. Well, they don't release their numbers anymore since they were acquired by SoftBank.
Really? Interesting.
So their quarterly earnings, nobody knows what they're doing these days. They're just part of SoftBank.
Why would ARM sell to Nvidia anyway? Why would Nvidia want them? Is this for some supercomputer project that just want that IP? Obviously, they could just license it.
Well, Nvidia, if they buy ARM, they can point ARM in whatever direction they want. But if you look at how ARM has grown just exponentially over the past decade, and how many billions of chips that they will be, having their licensees produce, and not to mention their new semi-custom stuff and all of that. I mean, it would be like, I mean, it really would be Nvidia acquiring a much younger Intel, because nobody sells more chips that are I mean, that ARM enabled. Or I mean, that's just billions and billions, far more than what Intel sells. And of course, it's just licenses and royalties, but it's still a lot of money.
Yeah.
And plus, then Nvidia doesn't have to they don't have to renew their architecture license with ARM, because they own it.
I'm just.
It's kind of a win-win.
Yeah. It's expensive though. I'm seeing like 30-40 billion dollars.
Yep.
Based on current valuation, and you'd think, hey, maybe Intel would step in. They probably have some cash, or they would leverage the purchase. But at that point, I don't know if antitrust would get involved, if they would even be permitted.
Yeah, it would
Purchase.
not be good. And I mean, another option is, Apple's got like what, $194 billion in
Just in
cash.
cash. Yeah, just in cash.
So they could in theory buy ARM, but I don't know if they really want to do that. They're pretty happy with their walled garden, and dealing with other companies it seems like a kind of hell for Apple, because they just don't like doing that, which is kind of obvious by how they've set up their stores and everything.
And with going back to Intel for just a second, because I'm thinking about this. You had mentioned, like, did they talk about the 7 nanometer thing on the Intel call with Bob Swan? There was a prepared statement that Swan read, and then I guess the Q&A at the end got pretty heated. I have not.
You could say that.
Yeah, I didn't personally listen to the playback, and but I was reading some of the questions and answers that were posed, and that's when it came out that his attitude seems to be kind of enough is enough. We're not going to let process get in the way. The thing that really got me was the idea of sort of separating process from architecture. There was a statement made that sounded like they were even willing to do that. What if we saw a new architecture on 14 nanometer plus plus?
That would be good. I don't think we're gonna see that. But yeah, they've the architecture guys and the process guys were hand in hand forever. And I mean, it was it's one of the reasons why Intel chips ran so well is they did a ton of custom work on each chip as compared to AMD or Nvidia, which does a lot of they do a lot of automated place and route. And so it's more efficient to do custom in terms of power and clock speed. But it takes a long time to do any kind of custom work on when you're dealing with just billions and billions of transistors. Clackety clack clack clack, clackety clack clack clack.
You can hear that, but the people couldn't hear it. I forgot about the whole.
Ah, you should tell me about that.
I'm talking to you on a webcam, and we're doing a anyway. I need to switch to a quiet keyboard because it's 12 inches away from this microphone here.
Yeah.
This monstrosity. Sound is low, quality is good. Well, that's good. Let me tweak the levels. Because hold on, let me switch headphones. Because the problem is I'm sending the same audio feed out that I'm hearing, and it's so loud. I'm trying to back it off of my headphones. I need an inline mic, and I've got one, or inline level control, or whatever I'm trying to say. I need to switch to stylish red headphones. Is what I need to do.
Those are stylish, and they're red.
Okay, there we go.
There's no lie in there. Stylish and red.
Okay, just volume. Let me pump up the volume, as they say, on wherever they say that. My volume is probably too low. Josh, I boosted you. Can you speak to the people?
I can speak to the people.
Whoa, now you're redlining.
Okay. Uh-oh.
Is this what you wanted, people? You wanted Josh to redline? And my volume is probably fine. Like, I turned myself up like 3 dBs. Okay, well.
But yeah, that was the problem. That we were looking at 14 nanometer was just Skylake after Skylake after Skylake. Of course, last 2 nights ago, last night, I called Skylake Skyrim or Sky River, something like that, because I couldn't think of the name. It wasn't like I was really hammered or anything. It's just that my brain is turning into mush now that I turned 48 years old.
I'm trying to remember, did we ever even talk about the whole 4000 series APUs? We might have. The OEM only thing.
A little bit, yeah.
And then the latest news, of course, if you want to add this into the mix, potential shortages for the 4000H series parts on notebook.
Well, we had a pretty long discussion on Twitter with Usman from WCCF.
Okay.
And he had written an article about how AMD was not so much constrained with the 4000 series. And he kind of talked about how OEMs and ODMs were way too conservative on their orders. And so AMD did not place enough wafer orders of the mobile chips. And that then kind of turned into, a lot of the desktop chips were also kind of pushed into mobile, and that's why there was a huge disparity. There's only OEMs only on for desktop Ryzen, and we have no idea what number. But we're talking to Usman, and it's like TSMC only has so many 7 nanometer wafers. And AMD only has a certain percentage of all those wafer starts. And they can't go to TSMC and within a month, change their wafer orders. These things are ordered many, many months in advance, potentially years, at least a year. But they can't just suddenly get a bunch of emergency wafers on 7 nanometer. What they have to do is they have to cannibalize some sales of some part that may not be selling as well, or they've got plenty of inventory, and that way they can get more of the Ryzen 4000 series. And I guess Lisa said within 3 to 4 weeks they're expecting more availability. So this means that essentially 5 to 6 months ago, they made changes in their wafer orders because it's 20 to 24 weeks to process a 7 nanometer wafer. It's a time consuming endeavor. Used to be 4 weeks, then it went to 6, and then it went to 2 months and 3 months. That's a really great picture, Soren, of me.
What am I missing in our Discord?
Yeah, Soren did a good picture of me being grumpy and having Kim Jong-il hair and body. Kim Jong-un.
I'm not buying it.
But I like it. I don't care. I'm saving it. It's going to be my new icon picture.
Honestly, though, looking at it, just if I were to see this, if I didn't know either of you, I don't really know. I don't know Kim Jong, really. We've never spoken. It just looks like a 1950s, senior photo or something.
Yeah, no, that's great.
the stuff you miss out on if you're not in our public Discord, I tell you.
Yeah, good times.
Well, okay.
But
What
anyway,
else?
yeah, the long and short of it is that AMD is still gaining share because they're selling pretty much everything
Yeah.
that they're producing now, and they've had to adjust their mix because their desktop stuff is still selling well and it's growing. Same with Epic, but again, they only have so many wafer starts that they deal with, and so it's Intel made $5 billion in profits in the last quarter, and they're not doing bad, but they're the only people who can provide as many CPUs as any OEM and ODM want. Period. They've got the capacity. AMD does not. They would never be able to approach 30% anytime soon. I mean, they're sitting at about 20% in mobile, around 18.3% in total, counting server, desktop, and mobile, which is it's overall high for AMD since like 2012, 2013.
Okay. Just pausing here for a bit to make sure levels are okay, because you've been consistently louder than me. I just turned my gain up, so hopefully... I mean, I'm looking at the simulated VU meters in OBS. Looks like we're pretty similar now. We're both just getting into the yellow, nowhere near redlining. So the volume might be a little low on the stream, but I think we're close to even.
Soren says levels are okay.
Okay. As long as we're reasonably close. I'm being referred to as the quiet one up top, which is fine. It's fine. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine now. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Quality.
You should have a spiel, a thing that you do. Like, have you watched the Hamilton stream yet?
I have not.
Oh, well, anyway, the King of England comes out, and one of his primary things is that he spits all over the place, and so I think that'd be great, and especially now that we're in a pandemic, and droplets are a big deal. I think that you would be kind of being a bit of a visual sorbet for all of us who have gone without spitting for so long. I think it could be really popular.
No, I don't think
okay.
so. Nobody wants to hear that. I don't have a screen filter in front of the mic either, so got to keep my distance. Try not to have any of those plosives.
Sibilance.
Yeah.
Sibilance.
By the way, if you can see this thing that I'm caressing here, people of the stream, look at this artwork. This is custom artwork for... Hold on, let me move the mic out of the way. Custom AMD Threadripper artwork, because this is a massive AMD Threadripper machine that I will soon be publishing a review over.
Don't drop it.
It is so heavy. This computer weighs close to 50 pounds, I think. I haven't weighed it yet. The average weight of these systems is 42 pounds. This one is on the higher side because there's so much in it. Because you've got...
God, it's just beautiful.
Dual RTX 2080 Ti's. You've got the Threadripper 3990X, 128 gigabytes of RAM. Yep, it's Falcon Northwest. This is a Talon. And look at that. The custom... Which, of course, the mic is in the way again. The custom PC perspective artwork on the side here. Very understated. Very elegant.
Classy. Just like us.
Yeah. Hey, Mike. Who knows? Who knows what the future holds? Maybe Ryan's going to be like, you know what? This Intel thing, it's not for me. I'm going to go back to PC perspective. And then he gets a hold of Jim. He's like, I made a terrible mistake. I'm going to buy it back. Although I'm sure that would not happen, because I'm pretty sure there's some sort of statute of limitations or something on these guys when they leave Intel. You can't jump back into media. We've briefed you on our 5-year road plan. I don't want to speculate. I'm just guessing. Maybe that's why Kyle's not doing anything, because he left Intel, and he's not doing anything in media. Maybe he doesn't want to. Maybe he doesn't need to. But I wonder if, hey, we briefed you on all this stuff, so...
Nah, I don't think that's...
No.
I mean, they'd nail him if he broke NDA. on stuff before it was, officially released. They do that, but he probably could, if he wanted to. But I'm getting the impression that he's being well compensated, and he doesn't have to go door to door begging for advertising scraps month in and month out to make the payroll. So yeah, he's probably ecstatic about that. Plus benefits, health insurance. It's a big deal.
Oh, you think he's still on the Intel payroll? I'm going to speculate, but anyway, are you talking
No, I'm
about
talking
Ryan or
Ryan.
Kyle? Oh, Ryan?
Ryan.
Oh no, Ryan's fine. I was talking about Kyle.
Yeah, no, I have no idea about Kyle.
Yeah. Neither do I. So what else happened last week as I look at our complete lack of show notes here? It's just been so long. It's
been weeks.
It's been, yeah. Man. I think the big stories were really just the Intel thing. That reorganization, you already mentioned that. Do you think, okay, here's another topic that came up in the last couple of weeks. Do you think that the whole Ryzen Mobile thing, where it was reported, this was July 22, 23, it was reported that there's only a Gen 3 by 8 PCI Express link for a discrete GPU on Ryzen laptops.
Yeah.
Does that matter? Does this have anything to do with why the highest end GPU you can find on a Ryzen laptop is an RTX 2060?
No, because Gen 3 by 8 still is not clogging off even the highest end graphics cards for the vast majority of applications out there, and even benchmarks. And I can only think of one benchmark that AMD showed off of their PCIe 4.0 that actually made a difference, and it was dumb. They just threw, I don't know, it was just dumb.
Well,
but,
yeah, at E3 last year, they were using the 3D Mark has a bandwidth test.
Yeah,
somewhere in the benchmark,
yeah.
And they were showing
it was massive.
Yeah.
But that's by 8 3.0 is it's really power efficient for something like that, and that's the primary reason they don't want to put 24 PCIe lanes when they can just do 12. And well, in fact, I don't even know that they often do the extra 4, because Southbridge stuff is a lot on the I/O already, and so laptops use a lot of that. I don't know. I'd have to look at some diagrams of actual laptops utilizing these chips, but by 8 3.0 is more than enough for laptop graphics. It's more than enough for desktop graphics for the most part.
Yeah, I think it's Tech Power Up who does this huge in-depth look. Yeah, I'm looking at it. Like the last one they did was in 2018 when the RTX 2080 Ti was out, and they go through and exhaustively test bandwidth. First, they show you the actual bandwidth, and of course, it's just hugely. It's double, obviously, by 16 by 8, 15,760 megabytes per second on a by 16 link, only 7,880 on a by 8 with Gen 3. But when you actually look at the results in any of the gaming benchmarks, the biggest difference was like 3%.
Yeah.
So the 3% is not holding back any laptop maker. It's not a technical limitation is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Like the fact that you can buy an Intel laptop right now with a 2080 Max Q, 2080 Super Max Q. And you can't buy anything above an RTX 2060. It seems like an artificial segmentation thing.
I think it is, and I think that it's also some snake bites from OEM guys and ODMs, in that maybe in the past with some of these AMD mobiles, they've tried to up and increase the graphics component, and it just priced them out of where customers are comfortable with AMD parts. And it's going to take a little while for them to get away from that and start offering higher end stuff with the high end Ryzen 4000 series. But it's yeah, I think it's just, they look at consumers, they don't want to waste a lot of product that's just going to sit on shelves because, even though it performs great, if the consumers don't feel that, that they're paying too much for an AMD based processor, I don't know. Because, I mean, have been in mobile have always been heavily discounted to even move them. So just momentum. It's going to take a while.
I remember asking the question the last time there was this virtual press event with AMD. I think it's when they were talking about the new Ryzen Pro. Like, we're looking at all these amazing benchmark results when that first, I think it was the G14 Zephyrus that came out first. And it was kind of like the Halo product, at least initially, even though it only had a 35-watt version of the 8-core Ryzen mobile part. Mm-hmm. But then, like, when are we going to see more of these laptops? That was my question. You have such these wins, these amazing reviews, and everybody talking about how incredibly impressive your mobile parts are now. And even with great battery life, where are the high-end laptops? We can't talk about the future, products, roadmap, etc. But, the second half of the year is going to be really exciting. And of course, that was a different time. So maybe this is all just delayed because of world events. But I would hope maybe by holiday. The longer we go without seeing anything higher than that 2060, or the very few that might be out there with the Radeon RX 5600 mobile part. There's a few with the 5500. 5600, I think, initially was only in the MacBook Pro, and now it's in at least one or two others that I can think of. But that's still, 2600M, RTX 2060, I think is still faster, and nothing above that. But Do you need anything more at 1080p than a 2060?
Not particularly, but yeah, it's AMD's got a hill to climb, mountain, perhaps in mobile, just because Intel has been the de facto go-to in the market, and everything has been designed about all of their multitude of parts, the stuff, the 5-watt stuff up to 45 watt, and workstation replacement with heavy duty graphics. And it's an area that AMD just has not sold much in, except in the very budget, sub $1,200 is what they primarily were looking at. I mean, they kind of made their living in between 300 and 500 in a lot of instances. So this is new ground for them. They got a lot to make up in terms of mind share with OEMs, but it seems like the sell-through is getting pretty good, and these guys they're starting to buy a lot more chips from AMD, and that's a positive thing. We need more competition, especially in mobile. That's an area that the Ryzen 3000 series did okay, but they weren't great, and the 4000 is really good.
Yeah, it's desktop on laptop, just at a lower TDP.
Yep,
it's crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, I'd like to do some more testing with the new Vega, because that seems really, really interesting. That they finally got their stuff together in graphics on the mobile with this part, and it will be interesting to see if they port over any of these kind of power and burst technologies that they worked on and optimized for Vega with the RDNA 2 that's coming out later this year, we hope.
Yeah, you're talking about the 4000 APUs, the 4000 series APUs with Vega
Correct.
graphics? Yeah.
Yep.
And in fact, it's probably right here at my feet, but I've got the this is the 3400G APU. So when the 4000 series stuff for desktop is available, this would be a great thing to package up with that and send it on its way to you, so you can check it out and test it.
What's that one you got?
That's the 3400G. So the 3000 series.
Oh, that's the older one.
Yeah. And of course, there's nothing newer unless you find an OEM part from someone or buy an OEM system that has it, because it's, of course, OEM only.
Yep.
Of course, I mean, we've seen them out there because you just have to find them. That was the case with all the other, like the lower wattage 2000 and 3000 series parts, because they had 35 watt versions, but they didn't sell them at retail. You had to go on eBay or wherever and find them from some overseas supplier. They were very expensive. I thought about buying one because I needed a 35 watt AMD APU to do the review of that little ECS Leva mini PC kit, and I sat on that thing for months because I didn't have a 35 watt CPU. When AMD sent over the 3000G, I was like, oh, actually, I have a CPU for it now, and it was okay, but it was nowhere near the graphics capabilities of one of the 3000 series APUs either. What do you think about the fact that the 4000 series stuff, the OEM stuff, is still using Vega, but fewer compute units, like 8 compute units versus 11? This 3400G has 11 Vega CUs, and the new one only, I think it tops out at 8.
Yeah, but it clocks up to what, 2.1 gigahertz? The graphics portion.
Yeah.
And so in between, I hate to say IPC, but let's just say work per clock.
Okay, yeah.
That the new and improved Vega cores can do, and you combine that with much higher clock speeds. Even their average stuff is way higher than what we've ever seen really achieved on the desktop with the current Vega stuff that pulls 250 watts.
Yeah. Or more.
So yeah. But I mean, you're talking a big GPU versus an integrated part, but still it's impressive what they seem to have been able to do with the 4000 APU. It gives me hope for AMD and their graphics future.
Okay, time out. I do want to talk about any of your thoughts about some of the rumors going on with Ryzen, the new Zen 3 or anything with RDNA. But first, I've had a number of people mention this in the chat, scrolling by. Burger update. Are you still getting burgers? Is there any new burger in your life this week?
Yes, there was. But it's kind of the usual, the Hayfire, double patty, pepper jack cheese, a pepper relish, fresh jalapenos, and a chipotle mayo. It's nice, hot, and tasty. I didn't eat for 24 hours after that.
Really? Seriously?
Yeah. Yes.
It sat that heavy.
Yes.
Or was it a choice? Maybe you were fasting. I'm not going to judge.
Well, it's sometime interim fasting. I can't remember.
Yeah, something.
Yeah,
intermittent fasting.
No, I do that, and plus, I just don't feel like eating because I'm still full for ages.
Yeah, there's certain places I go that I know I shouldn't, and then I do, and it just sits there for the entire day.
Just pay for it. Yeah. It's so worth it.
I guess.
Yeah. And I have tried egg on a burger since BDC LLC asked. Yeah, egg on burger is great.
Isn't it kind of like steak and it's like steak with breakfast, right? Like the whole beef and egg thing.
Yep.
Okay, so do you think we have to wait until after the consoles launch to see an APU on desktop with RDNA graphics? That's something I think about sometimes.
We're I think we're a year away from that.
Yeah.
I think the 4000 series is going to be the go-to here for a while. But it wouldn't. I mean, we might hear some announcements because they're trying to do more of a yearly TikTok that Intel used to do. But I don't know where RDNA 2 is really sitting in terms of a more focused, more. I mean, because these console SOCs, they're still a high wattage, high TDP as compared to mobile stuff. So I don't know where RDNA. I mean, it may come out in March through May of next year, but I would think it would be more of a late summer product. Because it took a while from the 3000 APU to the 4000 till you actually get them. So,
And I feel like it's such a small part of their business, and I know they're trying to make inroads into the OEM space, which makes sense. And it made sense to me when it wasn't going to be popular, obviously, with enthusiasts, but when I was on the call and AMD was announcing that the 4000G was going to be OEM only, if they're trying to get into the pre-built OEM desktop space and they can create this product that's a unified or a monolithic die, it's literally the laptop parts on desktop.
Yeah.
And produce those with more aggressive clock speeds and bigger thermal headroom because they're for desktop 65 watt TDPs, then it's a great all-in-one kind of PC option, regardless of form factor. It could be in an all-in-one PC. It could be in a ultra small form factor PC, like a not like a net top, like those, whatever those things are called, and anything. And I feel like if we're in a couple years, if something for desktop finally evolves, AMD could dominate, because take the consoles, like the current console. I know Xbox and Sony have a little bit of a different approach, even though they're using essentially the same AMD hardware, current gen. There are spec differences and stuff, but basically it's an APU.
Yeah.
So if you move on to a newer, bigger, better APU, I personally like the idea of Sony's approach a little bit more, partly because I'm a Sony fanboy, I guess, because I have every PlayStation and Vita and PSP and all that stuff. So I admit that right there. There's a bias. But I do like the idea of the unified memory, where you have just a big pool of ultra-fast graphics memory that the system, graphics, everything has access to.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be amazing on desktop. Why not just throw a ton of memory on it and allow graphics and your CPU, everything to access it, and then throw some really fast storage into the mix, try to reduce bottlenecks everywhere. That could be the future of the high-end PC, and it could be all AMD. And Intel would just be left behind with the older architecture that really hasn't changed that much since the XT era of PCs. It's a CPU, system memory being addressed by the CPU. You have a bus of some kind with a link of whatever width, taking peripherals back and forth. I'm oversimplifying and also probably getting things wrong, but it just seems like PCs haven't changed that much since the first Athlon launched in 1999.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the problem with that kind of thinking is that you're very limited in what you can do with memory, just because these are really highly designed parts, just like GPUs. And in terms of board layout, you've got tightly bound memory that you will not be able to upgrade. It will either come in multiple motherboards of, hey, this is a 64 gig motherboard, this is a 128 gig motherboard. Yeah, that's and the OEMs hate that kind of thing. They want to keep the stuff as simple as possible. And yeah, Apple may already solder their RAM, but you have like no choices with Apple. So, yeah, no, it would be harder. I mean, it's a good idea. It's an interesting idea, but you've got to be able to productize it to match the needs of multiple OEMs, who, of course, have their dedicated board partners. Some people have contracts with MSI and Pegatron and all these other guys to make their stuff. So it's complex. Yeah. But the Infinity Fabric that AMD has implemented, it seems pretty good for what it does. So it's nice.
Speaking of Infinity Fabric, the current generation of OEM APUs is, of course, when I mentioned monolithic. So it's not using a chiplet approach.
Correct.
So we don't have like any of the CCX, things to worry about as far as inter-core latency and that sort of stuff. But I would love it if they were able to implement something that was chiplet based in an APU, but is that even really possible? Because at that point, I'm
No,
sure you're
no, it's
introducing.
it's possible. I mean, all it is just it shares the if you were to have like two chiplets, one a CPU and one a large GPU, um, you'd be able to do that connected through Infinity Fabric, and it would utilize the memory controller that's on that I/O chip that also is the basis for Infinity Fabric. So it wouldn't be really an issue. Well, I mean, other than engineering the actual thing itself, which is a lot harder than, of course, But I mean, all the building blocks are there. They just, got to figure out the timings. They got to figure out the software side, how the OS is going to handle everything, and a lot of that stuff's kind of already taken care of, but it's still plenty of work.
I should have remembered. Anytime I think something is impossible or difficult, just remember in around 2018 when Intel released a product that was a mobile CPU on one side and an AMD GPU on the other.
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible. It's just that product lasted about as long as.
Yeah, it's COL, and they're not really supporting it in software anymore.
No, they dropped driver support for it.
That's crap.
Each side pointed to the other as far as like, oh, you need to get your drivers from Intel, you need to get your drivers from AMD. Intel's just like EOL, it's dead.
Yeah.
So if you had I think it was Hades Canyon NUC, you're SOL. Do you think, and I honestly do not know, do you think we're going to see Big Navi before maybe the end of September? You think we're going to see it before holiday? No?
Holiday.
Do you think it's going to have 80 CUs? Have you seen the 5120 streaming processor count? Because that would be amazing.
Yeah, it would be nice, but I don't know. I mean, they may have that many CUs in there. I just can't say because RDNA 2 is it sounds like it's going to be a pretty significant step up from RDNA 1.
That's really this is what we need. We just need an architecture day with AMD remotely or otherwise for them to explain it, because RDNA topologically looked quite similar to GCN.
Yeah.
If you took the charts that actually show the topology of the architecture and moved things around 90 degrees, suddenly it looks almost identical. They just kind of changed the positions around. Obviously, front end was a lot wider. They were getting more through the pipeline, and clearly they could have better performance than a Vega 64 with only 40 CUs with the 5700 XT.
Mm-hmm.
So it obviously worked. But the fact that
it's a lot more dense
Yeah.
in how they handle performance per CU. And I mean, they've kind of rearranged how the vector units all kind of work together, and that's all positive stuff. I mean, you get a much higher utilization, but with higher utilization, you also get more power consumption per CU in theory. But
Yes.
you kind of mitigate that with going with a 7 nanometer process, and then later on you add a lot more power gating and a lot more intelligent usage of these parts and clocking them up and clocking them down dynamically. Like Intel is very not Intel, but Nvidia is very, very aggressive with that, and have been since Maxwell.
Yeah.
They've kind of set the bar for that technology.
My concern with it is just that if they're still on 7 nanometer with RDNA 2, I wonder how much of an improvement on efficiency they've made between RDNA 1 and RDNA 2, because there was no... You would have thought that they could have had a 64 CU product with RDNA, but they were already pushing it on power with 40.
Yeah.
With the 5700 XT. It was pulling quite a bit of power. It's not quite up to the level, I think, of a Vega 64, but it's close.
But it's up there, yeah.
Yeah, and so maybe that to me was suggestive of why they didn't go 64 CUs or anything above 40.
Well, I mean, AMD used Vega as kind of a pipe cleaner for 7 nanometer, and that was an okay chip. I mean, it was nothing that really blew your hair back. RDNA 1 Navi they had a lot of improvement there from Vega, but I think that the amount of money AMD has put into the graphics guys has increased over the past several years, but all of their focus had been really on CPUs, and so the GPU guys really are still playing catch up in terms of being able to better utilize the tools that they have with 7 nanometer, because they do pretty much all automated place and route, while the CPU guys do probably 10 to 20% of custom layouts, and then the rest is automated. So you can do a lot more custom stuff and really tweak power characteristics of the graphics GPU if you even do a little custom work, because you have so many identical parts that you just copy and paste almost. Well, I mean, you don't really do it, but yeah, I mean, you've got X amount of cores. If you do quite a bit of custom work for each one, then pretty soon you've got a tremendous amount of custom work for your entire GPU. So I think they can do a lot, but I just don't know how much they're going to be able to do against Nvidia with their next generation, because I think the next Gen 3000 series, even if they're just going to be using 8 nanometer Samsung, it's going to be a significant jump from the RTX 2000 series.
It seems like there's almost like a cat, like not cat and mouse, but it seems like there's a standoff, because we haven't heard anything about RTX 3000 officially, and there's no news on release for RDNA 2. And when are these going to come out? And AMD has already played this pricing game before the whole debated debacle happened. So I'm just curious. Is
no,
Nvidia
I
going to
think
stick to their
it's going to be holiday for AMD, and it is going to be September, probably late September release for Nvidia, from all the indications that I've seen, with availability end of September, and a lot more stuff end of October.
Yeah, it's not what I want to hear, but it's probably exactly
it's what
right.
it is.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Lighter note before we go. What have you been doing to stay sane? I know you've been doing a little bit of streaming, so maybe you want to plug that here.
Yeah, I mean, Grendel_SX is my Twitch handle. Probably most of you know that, but I do that about once a week, maybe twice a week, depending. And I try to have an enjoyable gameplay along with talking about technology stuff, as well as maybe some, little historical explanations of stuff that I've learned from warships, because it's actually naval history is kind of interesting, and the actual hardware there from World War I through World War II and a little bit past that. I mean, it's the history of these ships are pretty fascinating as well, and so it's fun on multiple levels for me to play warships, just because it's a strategy game. It's not a Twitch game. It's not me yelling and screaming, as I go careening down hallways with guns and throwing grenades and.
What you mean you don't have all the crazy streamer antics? You're not doing like a PewDiePie kind of a thing?
No, I'm not. Who's the Dr. Destructo? What was his name?
Dr. Disrespect.
Dr. Disrespect. I don't have the.
You have some competition though. Apparently, he's coming back to YouTube.
Yeah, but I'm on Twitch, so obviously they made room for me. They knew I was coming, and they kicked him to the curb. Just for me. But yeah, no, I've been doing that, and also my regular job has been insane lately. It's been extremely busy.
So,
and kids they're going to be with both high school seniors, and we've had to deal with car drama and work, and it's just ongoing. The toys that your kid have now are so comparatively inexpensive to when they turn 17, 18. It's not even funny.
Yeah. He doesn't really have anything that's over maybe $100, except for the iPad, which he thinks is his. But
yeah,
I'm not looking forward to any of this. The one thing I've learned so far being a dad is that every stage is worse than the one before. You thought, oh, sleep
The
deprivation.
consequences only get bigger
Yeah,
as they
you're like,
get older.
oh, sure, we can start a family, and then no sleep for weeks and weeks, and then finally you start to get into a little bit of a routine, and then it's crawling, and then it's walking, and then it's
Getting into everything.
Yeah.
And that's, doing things that can actually really hurt themselves. Poor personal choices abound, and they never stop until they hit like 36 years old.
If you had told me, if you'd warned me how difficult just something like potty training was going to be, it's like, whatever, I've housebroken dogs, it's not the same. Because you're dealing with a human being who has preferences and will go hide somewhere to, take care of their preference.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
I do.
And it's not good. And it can cause staining and, ruin carpets and things like that. All right. Well, It's been almost an hour. Thank you to everybody who tuned in to our little fireside chat here. We're trying to provide some kind of content for you without a formal podcast this week. And it was an absolute train wreck in the beginning. Let's forget that 22 minutes ever happened. I've already deleted the video. Josh and I finally got our levels fixed after about 25 minutes of this stream.
Yay.
So, until next time. And I'll try to, announce in advance and organize and actually plan and have a list of topics and even be able to cut to a screen that shows you what we're talking about.
Yeah, maybe we'll be a little bit more organized next time.
And polished, perhaps. Yeah. Or not. But anyway, thank you, everybody. I'm going to take this offline.